Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And, today I happen to end up having a day off. And it's funny, I don't know if it happens to you guys too, but see, I'm always busy, always doing things. And today my gaming group canceled, which is what I was going to be doing. And which is quite rare because, my players are very dedicated, right? So that's Big Chungus down there. What's the matter, Big Chungus? I was saying my players are very dedicated, and so I ended up, this time it ended up being canceled, and I was thinking, well, great, I'm going to have an entire day for, because that's a 6-hour block of time, right? And I'm going to have a whole day there where I'm going to be able to do a whole bunch of stuff, and instead I ended up, laying in bed for an extra 4 hours, which I guess is fine, but there you are. Oh! There comes Big Chungus. She's trying to get at my yerba mate. Cats do not, as a rule, like yerba mate, but Big Chungus does. She'll eat anything. Look at you. Look at you. Big Chungus. You're so large you don't even fit on the camera. Holy crap, Big Chungus. You're so big. Anyway, today I'm going to do a video where I'm talking about the possibilities of the OSR, right, and what that means for D&D design. I think that a lot of, some of you will obviously this is all going to be totally old hat to you, but for some people, there's a large percentage of people who are into Dungeons and Dragons that have no idea, first of all, that there are Dungeons and Dragons based products, that is to say, OGL based, D20 based products that are not done by wizards, and even less so that there could be any kind of variant rules, and so the OSR is a whole movement. And if this is the first video of mine that you're seeing, go to my video list, go to my channel and look up somewhere near the beginning. There's a video that says the OSR is cutting edge and will change the way you think of D&D. Well, go to that video and watch that video before this one, right? Because that'll teach you what the OSR is. It's a design movement, basically, for making fantastic new variants of RPGs based on the original D&D rules. And then you can come back and take a look at this one, right? And now you'll see that, in fact, you can use the core rules of old school D&D for doing all kinds of stuff up to science fiction, like Star Adventure here, World War II combat. People have done all kinds of stuff, right? And also, of course, modern settings, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But before that, look at the difference. Tiny little Star Adventure here, and the Big Chungus of RPGs, the Invisible College, 432 pages here. That's quite the difference. Both complete role-playing games, just very different kinds, right? And Star Adventure obviously leaves a lot more room for the DM to fill in gaps and stuff, and Invisible College is a little more complete, but they're both full role-playing games that you can play. This one's $9.99. This edition in particular is the Amazon Color Edition. I think it's $50. So technically, I think you're getting a better deal per page with this one, but they're both still great deals, right? Okay, I'll leave the rest of my advertising to the end of the video, but suffice it to say, if you like my stuff, you want to support me, you want to support my videos, buy my products. So, I'm going to talk about how you can adapt the OSR rules to create characters with D&D style mechanics, but set for a modern era game. And that's basically what you're doing with, look at that, what you're doing with the rules in the Invisible College, because the Invisible College is set in the modern era. It's set in, technically in 2021 or in whatever year it is when you're playing the game. And so it has there's a whole bunch of things you obviously have to change in order to play a modern game. And part of those are thematic, and part of those are mechanical, right? So thematic means that you're keeping in mind with the style of game you want to play. And those are decisions you have to make. Like if it's a conspiracy game, Are you wanting characters to have, like in combat, are you expecting combat? Do you want that to be super realistic, or do you want that to be, like, do you want it to be high threat level or low threat level for characters, right? What does it say about like character advancement? Because you have to use the advancement rules if you want it to still be D&D. But how do you do that without having characters seem like superheroes, right? So there's a lot of stuff you have to consider. And then the mechanical are the things that are what stuff do you have to change in terms of, like, obviously you can't use classes the way they are. Like in theory, I guess someone could just go and say, well, it's set in 2021, but you could be a fighter, a thief, a magic user, or a cleric. But that would make no sense in the real world 2021. That's not what people are. Nobody's like even hardly anyone is even a fighter, to say nothing of a magic. I mean, I guess you could be a stage magician for a living, or you could be a boxer, right? But that's not what people with normal careers are in 2021. So you can't just do that. You have to adapt it. So basically, first you have, the ability scores. They're the regular ones. And then you have, for hit points, one of the first things that I changed in Invisible College is that characters have much less hit points than one would expect, and than one would have in normal D&D. And the way I do this is that, first of all, most people in the world are 0-level characters, right? And 0-level characters have no hit points. They just have Constitution. And in this mechanic, the first change I made is that if you that your core life points are your Constitution score. So if you get shot, you take damage to Constitution unless you have hit points. Hit points, what they are, is representative of experience in combat and training, physical training and things like that, that mean that you are more resistant to damage, right? And so those are the points that you take before you go into con. So you can take hit point damage all you like, and you're still perfectly fine. It's when you get to the con damage that you're taking serious harm. And so in a first level character, which all player characters in this game start at first level, will have a D6 hit points. But then after that, in higher levels, they're not going to get, they don't get another D6 every level. What they get as the baseline is one more hit point per level. So you can see you're going to have a lot less hit points, right? The saving throw, in order to do it for this system, and well, it's I use this for Lion and Dragon too, is just a base number. The base number is 16 modified by charisma, right? And then you apply, that's the number you have to beat. That's the difficulty number for any saving throw you're doing, which is a D20 roll plus your ability score. And you will add specific bonuses based on your career, your level, whatever it is that you've got, from special abilities or things like that. So you might have a +2 bonus versus magic or something, and then you use those too, right? 3 basic alignments. And then here's where we get to the interesting part. The next thing you do when you're creating characters is you determine your social class, right? And there's something about all my games have social class mechanics, because I think, if you're a historian, that's a super important thing about any society, right? Having a D&D game where you don't have where social class means nothing is basically having a D&D game set in 2021, right? And people always say, oh, but class really matters in 20. No, it doesn't. No, nobody gives it, especially in North America. Class still sort of matters if you're living if you're watching this video from Britain or certain parts of Europe, it slightly matters. But the West is the least class conscious society in the world, right? It's in general. It's and in history probably, right? Like it's in most cases, your wealth matters a lot more than your class, your background, your social birth, right? But in this case, this is to determine kind of like what, it still does matter, right? So you have to determine what kind of demographic do you come from. Or is your character from the very poor? Is he filthy rich? And what it'll do, first of all, is it'll determine certain skills that you will get. So the skill system is based on, first of all, certain background skills. You get to pick a certain number of skills from your social background. Skills in this system that I use is a D20 plus skill bonus plus ability score versus a difficulty. That's the same as in Lion and Dragon, again. And then after you've picked your skills, you have to either choose or randomly select a profession, right? So what did you train? What did you learn how to be in your life? So you're going to have a few skills from your social class, and you're going to have a few skills from the particular subject of training that you had. And I could have done like a list with like, every kind of profession. So like you're a milkman, you're a whatever, right? But instead what I did is I picked like broad categories, right? So you have skill bonuses that reflect careers in things like arts and entertainment, crime, the humanities, law enforcement, rural, land and engagement, I guess you'd say, science and medicine, sports, technical training, that sort of stuff, right? And then next you have, when you're creating your character, at a background event table, it says how you joined the college. So you roll a random check to see what kind of weird event caused you to join the Invisible College, right? So, for example, one of the college's enemy groups framed you for a crime or scandal you didn't commit for reasons you didn't know, or you found an old diary of a college member and were determined to seek the college out, or after tragedy you set out to travel the world for answers and eventually found the college. And in some cases, these things might give you a little bonus, like a specific skill related to background events of what you did before you start the campaign. You have character age rules, and then you have wealth. The wealth is another big issue that you can't just have, in a modern setting, it's very complicated to rate wealth the way that you do in a D&D fantasy setting. In a fantasy setting, you can just say, well, how many gold pieces do you have, right? And you might have 10 gold pieces, or you might end up having like 1,000,000 gold pieces, but it's still just the gold pieces that are piling up there, and you either have them or you don't. But you can't really, if you're playing a modern day game where you're living a modern day life, you can't really, just base it on, the money in your bank account, right? Because that's not how anybody works, right? In real life, nobody's just working at just putting the money in their bank account and then that's it, right? So, and especially if your characters are kind of adventurers in the modern world, that makes it even more complex. And you can't also keep track of every little detail of expenditure, right? Because if you're doing that, you're kind of going to go crazy, right? Like you have to work out what's all the shopping your character did, all the bills they paid, minus the credit card payments and then mortgage. And, like at that point, you're doing so much bookkeeping mechanics that doesn't really work either. Luckily, the Invisible College in particular, like if you were doing a game on high finance, you might have to do this, right? But the Invisible College is a game where money is not as important as in other things, because usually what you have is the college has resources that it's using. So all you need to do is kind of have categories of wealth. And that's what I did here. And they're based largely on your starting social class, though they could be modified by what profession you took, right? So you could be everything again from dirt poor to filthy, filthy rich. And those give you an explanation of roughly how much money on hand you're likely to have at any time, what kind of real property you're likely to have, and how much you're likely to have in savings or able to have in credit, right? So that's basically character creation in this, for the starting level character. That hasn't gone into like your class yet of how you are a magician of the Invisible College, but that's a subject for a different video. Hope I don't get a copyright strike for that. I forgot to mute it. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it that. That's a perfect sign that it's time to end. When Led Zeppelin starts randomly playing on an alert on my phone, it's time to end. So I will talk to you guys next time. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers. When we are, at some point after that, I will do a 4,000 subscriber live stream. Also, check out, I think next Sunday will be Inappropriate Characters, and we're going to have a very special guest star. And I'm just going to say who it is, right? It's Grim Jim. Grim Jim is coming back to Inappropriate Characters. Get ready to see what he has to say, what weird shit he's doing now, because it is weird. And also see if he and I get into virtual fisticuffs over the whole question of vaccinations, lockdowns, etc. The whole deal. So you don't want to miss that one. Anyways, if you like this video, please share it everywhere you think people find it interesting. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the video. please hit the like button. And if you want to support me, you can see that, you can just toss money at me directly if you want through Patreon. I've got a Patreon account. It's linked in the description below, but I don't really use it I don't do anything with it. That's if you've, bought everything of mine that you could possibly buy or could possibly want to buy and you still want to support me. That's great. But if not, pick up my products. Get stuff like Star Adventure, Space Opera, OSR, Invisible College, which is Occult, Modern Conspiracy, OSR. And these are all games that if you've played D&D, any edition, you're going to find them super familiar. You're going to know what they are. And that's part of the magic of the OSR, right? The OSR allows for compatibility along all kinds of levels and genres, right? You could take stuff out of here or here and put them into the other one, or put either of them into, fantasy D&D variant, right? Or D&D edition, So there's, that's the wonder of it all, right? And most of my games are like that. Lion and Dragon, Cults of Chaos, Dark Albion, all of them OSR stuff, right? So be sure to check those out, Old School Companion. And if you're low on cash and you still want to support me, check out the RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. I have 105 PDFs, each one of which is a different topic. All of them are meant to be actually used and played. All of my products are not meant to be They're not meant to virtue signal anything. They don't have an agenda. They're meant to be played, right? And they're meant for you to use them and play them. And so I try to always design them with that in mind. So you'll find with the RPG Pundit Presents that you'll get something useful for yourself. And it's also like you're buying me a coffee, right? Because they're all cheap. They're all between 99 cents to $4.99. And it's not my actual books are relatively cheap too. I mean, like the Star Adventure is $9.99. Invisible College is, I think, if it's not on sale on Amazon, it's usually at $50, but that's still a good price for a 432-page game, right? So, and you can also get it on drive-thru, of course. So anyways, check out my stuff, but mostly share my videos, keep subscribing, keep watching. Thank you very much. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Horn plus Argento Natural.